I'm the deathmatch messiah, Lazarus Black, and tonight I'm drinking at Moe's.
All right, everybody, taking time out before we get this show started. I want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin' Mo's be a brand ambassador for their clothing line. They got good stuff. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got beanies, they got lots of great stuff, encouraging everybody to break out of their comfort zone, live their best self, and hey, it's something I try to live every day. Now, be sure when you go and you're filling out your order, use the code Drinkin' at Moe's, get 10% off, and the link and the code will both be in the description. Let's fucking go. All right, everybody, welcome Drinkin' at Moe's. Big Mo here. You know, drill, YouTube, like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. As it helps with that pain in the ass YouTube algorithm, where most places you can find the audio podcast too. Tonight, I'm excited to have with me Lazarus Black. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm out here at car dealership dropping off my car to get it fixed, but I'm doing good.
Now that happens. I mean, I will admit the dealership I got my car at, my current car, yeah, I'm not going there for anything anymore. They tried to really rip me off on an oil change, so I'm like, yeah, no, I'm going to my usual spot.
Yeah, that tracks. Normally, I do like all my work myself on my car because like I grew up fixing cars, but I'm pretty sure the catalytic converter needs to be replaced, and I'm not trying to deal with all that.
Oh, no, totally get you there. Yeah, I'm not too big of a car person, so I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah.
But
it's a pain in the ass.
Oh, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Most car stuff I even get into is going to the one day out of the World of Wheels car show where they have a wrestler go in.
Yeah.
But anyways, thing that I'd like to start off with everybody with is what got you started as a fan, and then what got you deciding to finally make the leap into the business?
Honestly, it was kind of the same thing. I grew up like before I ever watched any of the Feds or anything like that. I grew up watching the indies. My dad was an indie wrestler up and down the East Coast for about 20 years. So starting at like 5 years old, I was going to shows.
Nice.
And he retired, and a couple years after that, I was just like, you know what? I want to do this. And
okay,
here I am.
That's awesome. I didn't get my start. Oh, excuse me. Watching independent wrestling until I was actually in the Navy in San Diego, and I just Googled pro wrestling in San Diego, and then boom, there I went. I met some great people that I still talk to. Met a guy that recently, earlier this year, passed away, but he ran a promotion up here, and then boom, here I am, met all my friends, and was a crazy ride. But man, I remember, who are some of your favorites growing up when you like actually started to watch, the stuff on TV?
So even before like I was watching WWE, someone gave me a Big Japan
Oh,
VHS.
okay.
And so I was watching, the Abdullah Kobayashi. I was
Mhm.
watching all of those guys growing up. So like kind of got into deathmatch a little bit earlier than
Yeah.
most deathmatch fans, but like growing up, I was obsessed with guys like Onita and Kobayashi and Kenta and all of those guys.
Yeah.
When it comes to like Americana stuff, like I mean, look at me. Of course, I'm a Hardy Boys fan, but also like always loved the Dudleys.
Mm.
especially their ECW stuff. Like
Oh yeah.
when they were able to just be who they wanted to be.
Oh God,
Like,
when they damn near start riots because of
yeah, like
making comments to the crowd and stuff.
yeah, man, that was like the stuff I loved, and like one of my favorite wrestlers, which kind of a controversial take these days, was New Jack. Like
Okay,
growing up,
okay.
because like he did not give a damn. He
Yeah.
just said whatever came into his mind, and it
Mhm.
was amazing.
Oh yeah. I actually had a former guest, Lloyd Anoa'i, that he had some matches with New Jack in ECW, and one in particular, I think he told in one of my questions in the later category that I'll ask you as well. He mentioned that in one particular match, I forget what building they were in, but they both ended up going through a wall, and then Paul Heyman ended up yelling at him after the match.
That's awesome. Oh, I love that.
Oh yeah, some of the stories I've been able to hear from this podcast have just been awesome. Like I could write a whole damn book.
Oh yeah, dude. Every single pro wrestler has some insane stories. Like probably one of my favorite guys to share a locker room with, just to hear him talk about his past, is Ricky Morton.
Mm,
Because that dude has some of the most insane stories I've ever heard.
I can
Like,
only imagine the stuff, the stories that are going on in his head, that
oh yeah.
stuff he's experienced. That's a wealth of knowledge right there.
The craziest part is you'll never know if any of them are true. Ricky has this saying of never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Mm.
So it's like he'll tell you something and you're like, I don't know about that. And he goes, well, shit, kid, neither do I.
That's funny. That is funny. Oh man. Like I know some of my favorite, like I just released his episode, Bull Buchanan. And good Lord, we go on one of my questions that I had for him in my notes, and he's like, "Oh, I got a story on that. I got a story on that." I'm like, "Let's hear it."
Yeah, hell yeah.
Plenty of them from over in Japan. Like one, God dang, there was one about having to make a couple stops on planes going over to Japan, and they'd have one drink in one area, and then another, and then they'd be drinking like oh God, I'm forgetting what it was over to Japan, but by the time they got to Japan, they were fucking hammered.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
All right, now one thing that I mentioned before we started recording is I say that drinking a Moses for everybody, because like I literally don't care how anybody identifies, how they live their life, because you know what, if you're wanting to watch my show, you're my kind of people. That's the way I treat it. And you mentioned that you had recently come out as non-binary, and you know, as unfortunate as it might be in some cases, that you know there's still a lot of work to do for acceptance of that, because like yeah, there's people out there like Max the Impaler and stuff that are doing
Yeah.
amazing things and getting lots of acceptance out there, which is awesome. I don't know, it has been majority positive for you.
Um, yeah, I was actually kind of surprised about it because I mostly wrestle in like the South, in especially like the old school territory places. I wrestle in Tennessee,
Yeah.
North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia a lot. And I was definitely not expecting the support that I got. And obviously, there's been some places that have hard, hard anti-progressive beliefs that have like kicked me to the curb uh, when they have like literal Klan members in their audience. And there's been some crazy stories that I've had. But honestly, for every person that I've lost out of my life because of this, I've gained two more great people.
Right.
Like, I mean, for one, I had just canceled out of coming to the show because they were one of those like, well, you can be who you want to be, just don't talk about it on Facebook because our fans might see your Facebook page. And I had just canceled out of them and started working for this company, which is where I ended up meeting Raven Havok. And now me and Raven are such good friends. We make some jokes to each other that if people saw us in public, they'd swear we hated each other. But the fucker literally has like I can't remember what the term for it is, but basically this fish can change its gender throughout its lifespan. And
I think I
so,
heard about that. Yeah.
yeah. And so, as a joke, he named the fish Lazarus.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, like, I've gained people in my life like that. And so, I wouldn't change it for the fucking world.
That's awesome. Awesome in that aspect that you've been able to meet people like that. Like my personal hope is that you hear people still making a huge thing when people come out. I'd like it to get to the point where it's like, oh, cool, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love for it to get down to this point where there's no uh, big deal based around it, because the whole idea behind why we celebrate it is like, because especially living in the American South, like it's kind of a dangerous thing to do even today.
Yeah.
And so like it takes a certain amount of like, you know what, fuck it, whatever happens, happens. I'm gonna be me regardless of any consequences that might come from it. Um, but I would love to get to the point where, the bigotry is so dead in America that it's like, oh, I'm gay. Okay, cool.
Yeah. That would be awesome. Like I've been able to talk with a few people from the LGBTQ community for the podcast, some people out west, and I'm just like I mentioned in before we started talking about this, if you are wanting to watch my show, if you're being a good person and you're happy, I don't care. You're good. You do you.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned Raven Havok, who the guy that introduced us together here. You have had a good share of matches with him. One in particular, the one that you sent me, when I got to watching it, it was a double title match. And let me just say, holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's one of those things where when you get in the ring with someone that you trust, and there's probably no one in this business I trust more than Raven. The dude could look at me before a match and I'd be like, all right, what do you want to do? And he'd be like, so I have this gun. And I would just go, all right, cool. So you're gonna like what, shoot me through the thigh, miss the arteries? Like I would just trust him to do some shit like that. But when you get in the ring with someone who you really trust and there's not going to be anyone taking liberties, and we already kind of had a chip on our shoulder going into that. That was a promotion that had never done deathmatch before. That was their second deathmatch. ever, and
Oh,
we were in the first one too.
oh,
Uh, yeah, on my channel, there's a it's the picture has become infamous now, but the thumbnail is Raven shoving a syringe through my cheek.
I've seen. I haven't watched it yet. I will be, but I've seen the thumbnail for that.
Yeah, that was me, him, Will Bannon, and Ghazi.
Ah, Will
And
Bannon, former guest.
yeah, and we just kind of were like, all right, man, it's time to prove that we can get crazy and
Hmm.
show them just how crazy we can get. And I mean, that second match, the one I sent you, definitely, like, I left with some new scars. I traumatized my wife a little bit.
I can I can imagine with the way that match looked. And you know what? I'll share links to the matches in the description so people that end up watching this episode can go and see for themselves what we're talking about. But man, it was like you guys were causing so much. Like, I love the chaos that was brought in that match, and you guys were causing so much of it. There was one time where, like, once or twice, where the audio actually cut out, and all you could
Yeah,
hear is the commentator,
yeah,
and it was like, holy crap!
yeah. That match was absolutely insane. It To this day, that's probably my favorite death match that I've had in this most recent run.
That is awesome. Now, I got to watching this match just it was last night or the night before. I've been so busy lately. But the TPW, wow, words are hard, deathmatch title with Tristan Ramsey. And yeah, that was some nuts. Loads of light tubes and
Oh yeah,
just
yeah.
insanity.
That was absolutely insane. I was talking to I was talking to the higher ups after the match, and they told me, they were like, "Dude, the last time that much glass has been left in the ring was I think it was JW Dalton, Alex Ocean, Brad Cash, and Raven Havok." And it was just like, all right, we were main event, and so anything that wasn't used was just ours. And there's this guy, his name's Kenneth Edwards, the deathmatch hippie. He built the little contraptions that we used. He built the wall of light tubes that I superplexed Ramsey through. He built the barbed wire door and the pallet. Uh, and we just told him, he was like, "What do you want from out here?" And we said, "We want everything." And we used damn near all of it. I think the only thing left that we didn't use in that match, there were two light tubes left unbroken,
Wow.
uh, out of, I think we started the match with like 104 or something like that. It was insane, man.
That is nuts. I know. I the first ever like legit death match, and not what I like to call basically a hardcore match that they just slap the term death match on it, was actually, and I'm going to another show for this promotion here in a couple weeks. It was at Sammy Callahan's promotion, Wrestling Revolver. It was Jake Chris versus Joel Bateman. And
Okay.
the match before it was a multi, I forget how many and who was in it, but it was a multi-person monsters ball match. So there was all sorts of shit already all throughout the ring. They were
Yeah.
getting ready, clean it up, get stuff out of there. Jake rolls in, is like, fuck it, leave it, let's go. And then boom, there we go. And my favorite part, though, and some people might think I'm insane, but the ending was them taking four folding chairs, bridging two panes of glass on there, and then Bobby Olson goes in, and I'm like, what the hell is he doing? Because I'm sitting third row. and all of a sudden I see him pull out lighter fluid. They light the glass on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done some fire stuff. That's that's one of the things Raven and I actually kind of first bonded over is we will take syringes, gusset plates, freaking all the broken glass you can find. But there are two things that both of us absolutely despise, and that is thumbtacks and fire.
Fire can be unpredictable because of like you get it to it goes wrong, which it very likely could. Stuff can get spread, fire spreads quickly, and yeah.
I think what scared me off of it was years ago. I can't remember who he was in the match with. Uh, it was one of the younger Santinos, but it was Supreme and them. And it was on XPW. It's an infamous match where they had sent one of the techs to get lighter fluid, and he came back with charcoal fluid.
Oh.
And so when Supreme went into the fire, it like stuck to him because charcoal fluid is oil based, and it burned him so bad, like all over his face and his chest. And that was the day I was like, nope.
Yep.
And I mean, not to mention, like, it kind of solidified it for me. This whole, the whole ordeal with Masada. Like when he got burned so bad, like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, it's nuts. And you brought up a guy that was in the match with you for the third of the matches you sent me. Taipei death match and against JW Dalton. And one thing that I was remembering specifically in this match that I don't know why, but I got a chuckle out of a couple parts because I was almost getting as much entertainment out of some of the things the crowd was saying as I did during the match itself. Like I remember there was one that I, for some reason, don't have on my notes, so I'd have to go back and watch it again, which I probably will. But I remember one guy yelling out when you guys had the staple gun, and you're like, oh, he stapled his titty. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. I heard some crazy ones that match. There was one lady that was like obsessed with something going in someone's ass. She said like 30 times about sticking up his ass. The one that cracked me up in the match, you can actually see me start laughing, was I gusseted JW's arm. And I was like right next to the crowd. And someone in the crowd goes, now staple his braid back. And I don't know why, but that cracked me up so bad. And then the next thing I know, I'm just like the shoot headbutt that I hit JW with rocked me for like 3 days.
Oh God, yeah.
Bad.
I remember seeing you do that, and I'm like, okay, I almost got a headache watching it.
Once I get it posted, I'll send it to you. I just recently got the clearance to post it. At the Brad Cash Suicide King tournament. And I mean, at TPW, we're going through a little spat right now. Brad's not a really big fan of me and Raven and Ghazi, and we just kind of keep like Raven really wants a piece of him, and I guess since I'm associated with Raven, that makes me an enemy too. But we were there, and it started raining, and we just decided, fuck it. We're going to do a Falls Count Anywhere match, and we're going to do it completely outside the ring. And me and him started the match by trading shoot headbutts. Yeah, I think we got like 4 or 5 apiece.
Ouch.
Yeah, man, that was rough.
Oh man, I can only imagine. Holy crap. Like I remember before we go into the next thing that I had here when you brought up TPW again. The first time I watched one of the Wrestle Kingdom shows, I forget who else was in the match, but one of my current favorites, Tomohiro Ishii, was one of the others. And I see him, like most of the time around here, you see somebody throw a headbutt. It's a working headbutt. It's like, oh, that looked like it could hurt. But this, like, you literally heard the bone on bone smack. Like,
yeah,
that shivers all the way down my spine.
That's one of my favorite things to do. It always gets a crowd reaction when you just grab the guy by the ears and you tell the crowd to quiet down. And they're so used to hearing that, especially in the South, everyone throws chops. So they think you're about to chop him, and then they just hear a thud from skull on skull.
Oh.
And always the crowd reacts exactly like that. And honestly, for me, hearing that, ooh, is almost better than hearing them cheer.
I can imagine.
I know I just did something that those people are going to go home and never forget.
Yeah, they are never going to forget that. Now, the thing I wanted to bring up, because I was just remembering when you mentioned TPW again, there is a video I saw on your Facebook page involving you and Raven, and then it says something about, I think the tagline on it was Lazarus Black and Raven attack the fans, and it was like a whole bunch of light tubes and shit. And what was going on there?
Man, so basically fans are psychos, and we love the fans, even if they don't necessarily love us. But Steven, one of the higher ups, came out and he decided to make the really smart move of getting in Raven's face. And Raven just blasted him with a bundle of light tubes. And that wasn't part of the plan for me, but, in for a penny, in for a pound. And the funny thing is that right after that video ends, right as it's ending, you see me pick up a chair. But what you don't see is that the second that video ends, I chucked that chair into a fan's face that was coming up behind Raven. So,
yeah. I mean, they always, like most shows, they'll, like, especially if there's a death match or a hardcore match going on, they'll tell you, hey, if the action gets close to you, move out of the way, or don't get involved in the ring and stuff like that. So it's like you see it on, oh God, there's constant videos on YouTube of fans trying to get in. And it's like one of those things is you hear the wrestlers talking about it. It's like you cross that line. It's like, okay, you're fuck around and find out, basically.
Exactly. Like that's the idea is, a lot of people don't know, especially with mine and Raven's history, like, and I'm not just talking about wrestling. Like he grew up in Flint, Michigan. I'm from East LA. Like it's one of those things of if you're down to throw hands, then you're down to catch them too.
Oh, yep. That's the way it's got to be. All right. Now, I have two categories here. One's a bit of a name game where I try to theme it towards the guest as much as possible. And, I give you the name, you give me first thoughts that pop in your head with the person. This time, since I'm talking to another person in the deathmatch world, I have been lucky enough to talk with quite a few people in the deathmatch world. So each of these, all but one, is a big deathmatch guest that I've had on. And, oh, damn, brain farting where I was going, but they are a former guest, big deathmatch names, except for the last one. So, like I said, give you the name, you give me thoughts on them.
All right.
First one of my first big deathmatch names. I'm actually gonna get to see him live here in a couple weeks. The Blood Fighter Alex Colon.
Man, Alex is a psychopath when it comes to in the ring. Like, he's one of the guys that I've watched everything that's ever come out of his. And I hope to meet him one day. I haven't met him yet, but everyone I've talked to about him says he's cool as fuck. And I mean, anyone who's that tough of a bastard, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you get respect from me just on the basis of being that tough.
Oh yeah, he is. Like, I am going to another show for Wrestling Revolver, and he is actually a part of their tag team champions right now. So I get us, and you know what? This is part of why I'm so excited about this show. It's him, Ricky Shane Page, and Steve Macklin versus the Second Gear Crew.
Damn.
I am beyond excited for that. And, you know, like I mentioned, it'll be my first time getting to see him live. But when I had him on, he was getting ready to invest in some new kick pads. So he was selling off his old ones. So I said, how much do you want? Well, long story short, signed ring-worn kick pads of his.
Hell yeah.
Prized possession that I will be getting these framed up and displayed behind me here sometime soon, hopefully. All right.
Love it.
Next one. It took me a little while to get this guy on because he's a fucking machine with the schedule he keeps. The Duke of Hardcore, John Wayne Murdoch.
That's another guy that's like, I haven't met him, but it's like, I've been watching his shit for years. That was actually one of the first Raven Havok matches I saw was him and John. And dude, John's another dude that's just a fucking tank. Like, you see him showing up for bookings and he's still got bandages on from the psychopathic fucking deathmatch show he did the night before.
Yeah.
And he just comes in, drinks a beer, and says, all right, let's do this shit.
I know, right? It's insane.
He's a tough son of a bitch.
Oh, man. And yeah, like I said, it took me right about a year, but I also had some personal stuff going on during that time. But back behind here, oh, right there, he had some of those wrestling buddies. One side's regular, one side's all bloody looking.
I love it.
Got one from him. So prized possession of mine. All right, now this next one, he kind of tried to downplay me calling him a legend. Madman Pondo.
Madman Pondo. I actually just recently had the pleasure of being in the locker room with him. It was Shadow WX's first tour in the US, and one of their first stops was TPW. And that was actually my debut in TPW, was working Raven the match after them. Yeah, Pondo looks at me and he goes, wait, you guys are using glass? I said, yeah. He goes, you guys are going on after us now. And it was him and Shadow against Travis Dykes and Brad Cash. And holy shit, it was insane. And I don't care what Pondo says, he's a fucking legend. And he did the same thing in the locker room. Anytime was like, dude, you're a legend. He was like, nah, man, I'm just some dude that likes to wrestle.
He did that with me. I told him, hey man, I get being humble about it, but when a lot of people think about Mount Rushmores of deathmatch wrestling, you're on there for most people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, growing up watching him, I mean, when I was a kid, I used to be obsessed with making like cardboard versions of all the crazy ass weapons I saw.
Yeah.
And like, one of my like prized possessions, I made like a cardboard version of his baseball bat with the saw blade.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, you know, growing up watching him, just like, it kind of solidified me as Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Mm, gotcha. Now, like I said, the last guy on this list, not somebody I've had on yet, but I have been interviewing countless numbers of people from his promotion, H2O. I'm talking about Matt Tremont.
Oh yeah, man. Like that's another dude that's like he's on that Mount Rushmore.
Oh,
Like
totally.
dude is a god of deathmatch. I mean, I I remember one of the first like death matches I saw in America. Granted, I was kind of a later on fan of American death match. Hell, I didn't even know it was going on for a while. Uh, but I watched him. Was it Cannonball when he like hammer fisted the fucking Kinzen into his head at
Oh, yeah.
POD? Yeah, like man, and just some of the shit he does, like, and just keeps on coming. Like they call him Bulldozer for a fucking reason. Like that
Oh, yeah.
most one of the most recent bad cuts I saw from him was the one he had going down the side of his face.
Mm.
And he just kept fucking going. Like the guy is fucking brutal.
Oh, yeah. Him and H2O, I mean, they not too long ago passed their 200th live event. I
Mhm.
had, oh God, I'm trying to remember how many people I've had from there on, but like Jess Moss, God dang, I'm feeling, I just had Frank Benetti on. I just recorded with him
Yeah.
anyway. It, too many for me to remember right now. They have been so good to me that I got nothing but great things to say about that whole promotion. But yeah, Matt
Oh yeah,
Tremont
man.
is definitely like if I had to put together a bucket list of like huge names that I would love to have on that I haven't yet had on, Matt Tremont is definitely at the top, if not, well, near the top, if not the top of that list.
Oh yeah, I mean, dude, he's fucking awesome. He always has been. Uh I just recently watched ooh, it was him and Neil Diamond Cutter's
Ooh,
700 light tube match, and it's just how the fuck, like,
yeah.
dude, like, uh, you know, I I've done some crazy shit. I've done the 200 tubes matches and shit like that. But like the idea of just 700 light tubes,
Yeah.
like it was crazy because like when you see the angle shot from the crowd, it's like they can't even see in the ring until like 5 minutes in when enough tubes have been broken for them to be able to look
The
through the
ones
middle.
lying in the ropes there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, Neil, like, props to him for fucking doing it. That's another dude that's just a fucking tank.
Oh, I literally just released his episode last week.
I watched it. He's another dude that's like that man deserves everything he gets and more.
Oh, totally. All right. Now I have some random questions. Some might be wrestling related, some might not be. Some might have absolutely nothing to do with anything we've talked about so far. That's why it's random.
Fire away, man.
All right. First one of the only ones I like to keep in here because I love the stories. Craziest in match moment for you?
Craziest in match moment for me. Uh let's see. See, I mean, like that's a hard one, especially as a deathmatch guy, because
Yeah,
there's like
I
so
was gonna
much
say.
crazy shit.
I was gonna say.
Um, Probably the moment that like sticks in my mind the most um, was in the match I sent you uh, when Raven put the pane of glass on my back
Mm,
and he throws the chair at it. Um, you can see it if you zoom in really tight on my back, but it actually hammered a piece of glass about that big
oh,
down into my back.
oh,
And I felt it go in, and like in my mind I kind of started panicking We always joke about it anytime I'm talking to someone who hasn't done deathmatch before. I'm like, there's this moment where, especially when you start bleeding from the head, where it bleeds a little bit faster than you expect it to. And you kind of get that split-second moment of panic where
Mm.
you're like, oh, fuck, did I just Eddie Guerrero myself? Um, but this glass goes in, and I asked Raven, I was like, is it bad? And I just feel him brush across my back, and he goes, "No, you're good, baby. Keep going." And then I get in the back, and like there's still like a shard of glass like that long just stuck in, where he was just like, "Nope, nope. Keep him calm, keep him cool and collected." That's one of the ones that sticks out to me. Uh, or another one. Just recently, I went down to DWA in Georgia, and this match just recently got released where I tagged with the Killbilly Nathan Mowry
Mm.
against Chip Schuyler and Danny Only. And at one point, I look up in the match just in time to see Nathan throwing Chip off the top of like an 18-foot barn.
Oof.
Just, and the bad thing was, I couldn't see the landing because there was a food truck in the way. So I just see Chip disappear.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, he's dead. All right, let's go back to the rest of the match.
Yeah, that is insane. All right, now this one I've been kind of throwing in here every now and then. If you ever won a big lottery jackpot and had what I like to call fuck it money, what is one of the first things you'd get?
I mean, considering where I am, I'd probably get a car. But no, honestly, uh, if I just had bucket money, like probably the first thing I do, pay off like my medical bills and shit
Hmm.
like that. 28 years old, and I've got thousands of dollars in unpaid medical debt. Um, but after that, first thing I'm buying is just a ring
Hmm.
somewhere that I can just get in. Like, I don't want to start a promotion. I've got enough friends who are promoters and they tell me how fucking miserable it is. I'm good on that. I just want a ring where whenever I get an idea, I can just call up one of my buddies and be like, hey, so I have an idea for this thing I want to do.
That
And
makes sense. Something that you can
yeah,
just whenever like you have an idea like that, or if you're just wanting to, let's say you have to take time off for an injury and you want to just go somewhere quick to be able to, shake off a little bit of the ring rust, I guess.
yeah.
Just boom, have it right there.
Yeah, I mean, and like also, I mean, for me, there's that whole cliche of like wrestling is therapy.
Mm.
And it's not really therapy for me. It's oh shit, dropped my headphones.
Ugh.
Uh it's not really therapy for me. It's more like meditation.
Mm.
And like anytime I'm in the ring, Lazarus Black outside of the ring may have like all this shit going on. But Lazarus Black in the ring doesn't have to deal with any of that. And it's just this like I can just get away from it for 10, 20 minutes at a time. And I mean, even when I'm just like sitting in a ring, you feel the canvas under you, you feel the boards shake every time you move. There's just something about it that's like comforting, I guess.
Understandable, that I can see how, when you're in there doing something that you love doing, it's not always work. It's like that place that you go to for that release. So getting to actually have that, you know, if you have the money to buy your own one, why the hell not?
Yeah, I mean, like my dad just recently bought a ring, and every time I'm over at his house, I get in the damn thing. even though like that is the hardest ring I've ever been in. It's it's Bruno San Martino's old ring.
Oh,
And so it's converted from a boxing ring.
oh yeah,
So like every time you land in it, it's just like concrete.
yeah, yeah. I've heard those boxing rings or those ones that were converted from boxing rings are notoriously hard.
Yeah, it's because the way they're built, they have a center pillar
Mm.
that kind of supports everything, so you don't get that flex
Oh
that
yeah.
you do with regular rings. And my gosh, like a normal wrestling ring kind of sucks to fall in anyway. But but like when you're landing on, just solid steel and boards, you might as well just take a bump in your living room. It's gonna feel the same way.
I can imagine. All right. Now, with the name of a show like Drinking at Moe's, I would feel weird if I didn't have this question. Favorite drink, whether it be alcoholic or non, or one of each, because I always tell people just because it says Drinking at Moe's does not mean it has to be alcoholic.
Um, I mean, if I'm gonna go with like my favorite drink, especially non-alcoholic, it's Nos Energy. Like
Mm.
I drink like two or three of those fucking things a day. I'm gonna have a heart attack any day now, I believe. But when it comes to like alcohol, I'm pretty simple about it, man. Like I like a good cheap whiskey. Like for me, like Black Velvet's my favorite whiskey. Pay like $20 for a handle. Like that's my kind of shit. Or those monster beast things.
Okay.
Raven got me into those, and now I'm obsessed with them. I drink them every day.
Oh yeah. Me, I've always been more of a beer guy. I got one of my favorites here, Kona Big Wave.
Hell yeah.
Stone Cold's Broken Skull American Lager is another solid one.
I've heard a lot of good things about that one. When it comes to beer, like I love Space Dust. I'm an IPA guy.
Mm.
Uh, I love Space Dust. I love fuck. There's a porter that I'll drink. It's called Sweet Baby Jesus,
Okay.
and I drink those. It's like chocolate peanut butter.
Okay. I know you mentioned IPAs. The Broken Skull IPA is a solid IPA. And
That's the
peanut
thing that
butter.
blows my mind, man. I watch, the newer videos of Stone Cold pounding beers. Like now he's pounding those freaking IPAs in the ring, and I'm like, this dude just chugged like four, like 10% IPAs.
Yeah.
Like he's walking to the back with a buzz. It's not like back in the day when he was drinking like natty lights
Yeah.
and you can crush like a sixer and be fine. Like now he's drinking something where it's like you might want to pace yourself.
Pace yourself a little. Yeah. And then you bring up peanut butter. That screwball peanut butter whiskey is freaking good.
I've tried it. Yeah, I've tried it. I actually really like that one. I just happened to walk in the liquor store when it first came out, and they had it on sale because it
Oh,
was new. And so I grabbed a bottle of it. I was like, fuck it. If I don't like it, I'll give it to somebody. And I tasted it. And yeah, that bottle lasted about a week.
awesome. All right. Now, I have been always more of a dog person, but my wife and I, we have both dogs and cats. What would you say if you're more of a dog or a cat person?
I'm definitely more of a cat person. Like, I love dogs. I grew up with dogs. Um, but like, I feel like cats just match my energy
Mm.
because I can go from being like, yeah, I want to be social and talk to everyone and be friends with everyone to fuck you, stay away from me in a
Kind of
matter of
like a
seconds.
cat.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I mean, like, I have a cat. He's a Maine Coon, so he's fucking huge. But like, that's my homie. Uh, like, the thing, like, he watches fucking TV with me and shit. Like, he'll just sit down on the couch next to me and watch whatever the hell I'm watching, usually wrestling at this point.
Nice. Yeah, my wife and I, when we first got together, she had two, and then she gets this idea to have one, but it wasn't. She told me the one she was thinking about, she didn't end up getting. But then I was working evenings, and we have one of the spare rooms has a window that overlooks the front yard and the driveway. I'm pulling in, and I see the light on in that room, and I see a cat in the window. And I get up there, and I'm like, that cat looks fluffier. And then I don't even get a foot on the steps to go upstairs, and she's like, babe. I'm like, you got another
Yep.
cat, didn't you? And
That's
now
actually
that cat loves me. Like, it will literally use my beard as a pillow.
that's actually how we got our cat. During the pandemic, like, you know, you got to do what you got to do to keep ring rust off. And there was this show in North Carolina. Uh, I'm not going to drop the name of it, but they had a ring in the backyard. And we would go up there and like put on shows for like the neighbors and shit like that. I mean, by the end of it, they'd have like 80 people out there, just in their backyard, watching a bunch of us just basically just do drills. Um, and we would turn them into matches just for fun. But my wife would come out there with me, and she happened to see this little kitten, and it was sick, like double ear infections. One of its eyes was sealed shut from allergies and shit. And she just looks at me and goes, I want it. And I mean, there's no point in fighting it. Like,
Yeah.
if I argued with it, it just meant that we were going to be standing outside longer, but we were still taking that cat home.
Yeah.
So we bring it home, drop like $1,000 in vet bills within the first week of having this cat. And here we are fucking 3 years later. And now the thing runs my life.
You know what? That kind of sounds like my wife and me. She tells me that I can't ever say no to her. And I always tell her, have you seen what happens when I try? So I just cut out the middle part.
See, the bad thing is, like, my wife, she's a paralegal. So if I try to argue with her, it feels like I'm in court, because she just starts like speaking to me in like legal terms.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Probably a good idea to avoid
I'm
that.
not arguing with a paralegal.
Yeah.
She just makes me feel dumb. She starts using words that I have to fucking Google.
Get a dictionary and like, what did you just call me?
Yeah, it's like I swear, she said insults to me before that I had to like Google what they mean.
Yeah, I can get you there. All right. Last but not least here. Best advice for anybody wanting to get into wrestling.
Don't. No, I'm just
You're not the
kidding.
first person to do that.
No, I mean, first things first, like, find a decent school. Because there's so many fucking wrestling schools out there that are just hot fucking garbage. They're the kind of places that tell you, oh, you know, we'll have you working matches in 3 weeks and shit like that. And it's like, dude, I trained a year and a half before my first match, and it was a 5-minute squash match. Because all I did was bump and feed and sell. That was it for 5 minutes. And then I got my ass kicked. I came to the back and I said, how'd I fuck up? And that's another thing, is like, be open to criticism. You know, so many people are all about like, if anyone tells you you did something wrong, that you think, oh, you know, they're just a hater or some shit like that. One of the guys that, you know, I tell every green guy that I meet they should be like if they know him is this guy, K Killa. He comes up to me anytime we're on a show he'll come up to me after the show and just go, "Where'd I fuck up?" He doesn't want to hear what he did good, because if he did good, then you're not going to talk to him about it. He wants to know what he did bad, what he needs to improve on. Also, like, get in the gym, or even if you don't go to the gym, just work out, go for runs. Do that before you get to a school.
Yeah.
Be in decent shape before you ever start training, because if you don't have the dedication to get in decent shape, you're not going to have the dedication to do what you need to do to be a wrestler.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, last but not least, like, this is one that's a little bit controversial, is just because someone's been in the business for a long time doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. Like, you can be a fuck up for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you've got guys that tell people, like, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be wearing that. You shouldn't be doing that front flip. Well, if the front flip matches your fucking character and you've got the athleticism to pull it off and the crowd likes it, then fucking do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you got guys like Ricochet and Osprey and all those guys out there who could do 30 fucking backflips in a row. I can't fucking do it.
No, I wouldn't even be able to dream of it.
And that's why when some of these guys who are like super high flyers and speedy motherfuckers come up to me and they're like, "What do I need to fix in my match?" And I'm like, "Kid, you were a fucking blur." Like, I don't know how to critique the match because I can't do it, so I'm not going to tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
Now, if you start swinging light tubes, I can tell you how to fix your form on that. But when you're doing a fucking double moonsault suicide dive from a ladder to the outside of the ring, I don't know how to fucking tell you how to fix that.
No, I can get you there. And, you know, the whole thing about being open to criticism, the way I like to think about it is, if you don't know that how are you supposed to know what you're supposed to improve on if you don't have somebody telling you? You might be doing something completely wrong and thinking you're just fine.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one of the biggest issues I see from a lot of the guys who are coming up in wrestling. There's this idea, and once again, it's a bit of a controversial take, but there's this idea that anyone can be a pro wrestler. And at the end of the day, not everyone can. Like, it's one thing I tell people is there are some people who do not have enough self-loathing to become a pro wrestler. I have, especially when it comes to hardcore, every new kid I meet wants to do a gimmick match, their third match in.
Yeah.
And I've told them, like, one, learn how to bump on the mat before you learn how to bump through a table. Like, I mean, it sucks, but it is what it is. And there's some people who just aren't cut out for it, and that's fine. You know, it's not something that people should be upset about. It's just like, not everyone's cut out to be, you know, the next Carlos Santana or some shit.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. All right. Now, before we go, where can people find you social media wise? So if they don't already have their eyes on Lazarus Black, they can go ahead and get them there.
So I'm on Facebook, just Lazarus Black. I'm pretty much the only Lazarus Black on Facebook. There is one other account, but it's like a clown fan account. Then on Instagram, I'm Fear Lazarus Black. There's also Fear the Black Society. That's the stable I run. Then on Twitter, it's Lazarus Black 666. And TikTok's the same way.
Okay.
And then
we'll get
YouTube.
Okay. Oh, YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get all that in the description. Well, that is about all I have. I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me tonight, and best of luck out there with everything you got, death match and all that.
Thank you, man. It's been great talking to you. This is probably one of the most fun interviews I've had in a while.
That means a lot. That definitely means a lot. Thank you.